Today, we're joined by a true legend in the fitness world. As the former co-owner and creative force behind Gold's Gym, he helped shape what modern bodybuilding and gym culture looks like today. He's discovered talent, built champions, and turned a single gym into a global powerhouse. He is also an accomplished author with his current book, The 3 Muscleteers, available on Amazon. Straight out of Jersey welcomes Ed Connors.
Welcome, everyone. I'm honored to have Mr. Ed Connors. How are you doing, Ed?
Great. That was a wonderful introduction. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. And first of all, thank you for your service. I'm very big on giving back to especially the veterans. I do a lot of things with the veterans. And I know you were in Vietnam, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So thank you for your service. I always like that. Overall, first of all, let's talk about your health. How are you feeling these days? You look great.
I'm feeling very good. I read recently that most older men or women spend the last 14 years of their life in pain. Mm-hmm. And I just turned 80, and I haven't had those 14 years. So I feel very fortunate.
Oh, okay. Wow. Now, let's talk about your background and everything. Now, you were an architect. You were on the East Coast here in New York, right? You worked here for a while?
Right. After the Army, Vietnam, I joined an architectural firm on the East Coast, Roach Dinkel and Associates. Kevin Roach, the founder of the firm, was what we would call a starchitect today, like Frank Gehry, who just died.
Oh, okay.
I worked on a lot of projects, and many of them got built, which is wonderful for an architect. You may be familiar with the Temple of Dendor wing in the Met, at the Met.
Yes, yes.
That was or the UN Plaza Hotel.
Correct.
Opposite the United Nations building. Those were a couple of projects I worked on. So, yeah, New York is still probably my favorite city, and a really great city.
Now, I was surprised. Now you said they let you go for
a
new job?
I've been through 6 recessions, and architects get laid off, pretty easily. And so, yeah, I had a 4 or 5 year career back east, and then was let go. And in my search for a new job, I met Pete Gromkowski, and that changed his life and my life as well.
So what inspired you? What did you for getting a Gold's Gym? What was the reason, your vision behind, getting Gold's Gym? Just an accident?
No, I think it's in the back of my mind. Again, I was a fat kid growing up, and I joined a gym when I was in college to lose weight for the Army, knowing I would be drafted.
Okay.
And I didn't like the experience. You're not old enough to know, but joining a gym back then was an hour in a closed room where they browbeat you into paying $500,000, $2,000 for a membership. And I think in the back of my mind, I must have thought, if I ever have a chance to change this, I will. And my first gym, my first franchise, now a license called a license at the time, in 1980, I started selling $19 a month memberships. Everyone thinks Planet Fitness invented that, but I was doing it 45 years ago.
Wow. So then how did you come about getting Gold's Gym? Getting that friend,
Well, that's in my book, but when I saw Pete Gromkowski in Florida, when I was looking for work, actually interviewing with Disney, he was the biggest human being I'd ever seen. And I had just come from an interview in LA, and I thought, well, God, he should be out there at Gold's Gym. And, he was going through divorce. He said he had no money, no car, whatever. And I said, well, if I get that job out there, I'll get you out there, and you can stay with me till you get on your feet. He did that. And then several years later, called me up and said, Ed, Gold's Gym is for sale. Are you interested? And I thought I would be one of, many shareholders, but it turned out to be ultimately just 3 of us. And so I ended up owning 25% of Gold's Gym for the next 20 years. And then 5 years after that, after we sold the first time, I stayed on and continued to be an owner and on the board.
Now you have a book out called The 3 Muscleteers. I'm going to put a little picture up here right here. This is basically your memoir, correct? Your whole how you purchased
It's
everything?
a memoir. That's me in the middle. I always wear a coat and tie every day. But Tim and Peter on either side of me. It's more than a memoir, I think, because I think it's also a history of the fitness industry, which is important for people who work in it to know that history. So it's kind of a socioeconomic history as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big history, obviously, very big
Yeah.
history. And now, at what point did you realize Gold's Gym was going to become a global fitness brand? When did you realize and say, "Hey, I'm going to make this the brand it is"?
If I had to put a year on it, I would say 1985. And again, I bought the gym with Pete and Tim in 1979, and I didn't quit practicing being an architect until 85. So
Mhm.
I think it took me 6 years to, really realize that I could, contribute more by, devoting my energy to Gold's Gym and not working as an architect.
Mhm. And for me, I grew up watching Pumping Iron and Arnold and Lou Ferrigno. So my first gym when I was 19 years old was Gold's Gym in
Yeah.
Paramus, New Jersey. I don't know if you've ever
Oh,
been
I
there.
know. I
Mike
know
and
that
Arnold.
I I joke with people that I've seen more gyms than anyone else alive, and Paramus I can remember very well.
Yes,
I
actually
probably
closed down
visited
because the
a few
pandemic.
times. Yeah,
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not with us because of the pandemic. It closed it down. They
yeah,
didn't were
yeah,
able to
yeah.
survive. But it was a great gym. And one thing about Gold's Gym was that, that you can't find in these other gyms like Planet Fitness is that Gold's Gym, you could walk in there, you can find always those big bodybuilders that would actually teach you as a
Mhm.
kid how to work out, what you're doing wrong, what do you need to do, how do you grow. I mean, that was the difference.
Yeah,
And you had a lot of talent coming out of your gym.
yeah.
Who do you remember all the talent that you had that you say, wow, this guy's going to be somebody?
At the back of my book, I list my 535 house guests, and many of them. I think you can. I don't have the last page in front of me, but I think
Mhm.
101 became pro bodybuilders.
A lot of them did.
Two dozen were pro wrestlers.
Mhm.
25 or so were gym owners, and then an
Mhm.
equal amount started supplement companies. So there were some major players in there. And then I wish now I kept track of who became a personal trainer, because that people would say back then there's no money in bodybuilding, but certainly if you're a personal trainer, it's a livelihood now. And I think there are hundreds of thousands of men and women all over the world working as personal trainers. I see it, here in Europe even. I mean, or especially in Europe.
Mhm. What was your relationship with Joe Gold?
It was courteous. I think he went to his grave kicking himself that he sold his name, but
Mhm.
I think he was thrilled at what we did with it. And
Yeah.
he copied us, with the franchise model. And if he hadn't done that, he could not have supported his gym in Venice, because
Mhm.
he treated it like a private club. When he died in 2004, I know he had 600 or 700 members. By comparison, Gold's Gym Venice had 12,000.
Mhm. Um, you know, obviously Lou Ferrigno, and you mentioned him in your book.
Right.
I had a personal little situation with him, and this is going back about 10, maybe 12 years ago. He had written his book, The Life of Being the Incredible Hulk. Obviously, Pumping Iron was a big movie. I loved it. I took my son to see him, and when you purchased his book, he would sign it for you. So I
Mhm.
purchased the book. He signed it for me, and my son said, "Hey, can I get a picture?" And he said,
Yeah.
"Sure." And then he turned to me and said, "It's going to be $25." And I said, "Well," I said, "I just purchased the book."
Yeah.
And he said, "I'm sorry, this is a business." And after that, it rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
What was your interaction with Lou Ferrigno with him?
Well, he was kind of oblivious to me when he'd come in the office to see Tim, who he was had a good relationship with, and he'd sort of throw his bag and coat on the desk. Kind of like, I mean, he wouldn't even acknowledge me.
Hmm.
But again, I would stand often in the lobby of the gym in Venice, and I would ask people, why did you pick up a weight? Why did you start lifting? And some would say Arnold, and most would say the Weider magazines,
Hmm.
inspired them. But then, some would say the Hulk. They
Hmm.
watched the TV show, and he was their hero. And many were house guests of mine. And I put in my book, I think, an email from one of them saying what a disappointment was. But that was that. I mean, I would not have put that in my book or mentioned it if it hadn't been kind of a common thread with those
Hmm.
a rather large number of house guests that just he burst their bubble.
All the time, he did that. He burst
Just
their bubble.
being rude. And you know, people will often ask me, you know, what's Arnold like? Well, you know, Arnold, when he leaves his house in the morning, you know, gets on his bike and goes down to the gym, he knows he's in the public eye. You know, he wants to give back to his fan base. And you can even see that in the gym in Venice. I mean, he'll still pose, you know, for photographs or whatever, even now. You know, he's a billionaire, you know, 2 years younger than me. Still very active doing a TV series now. So yeah, you know, incredible difference.
Yeah. John Cena wrote the foreword for your book, correct?
He did a beautiful forward, yeah.
Yeah. How was he? He worked for you. Didn't he work in the reception, I think? Or
Well,
something?
that was one of his later jobs. I think somehow people act like I discovered him in the pro shop or working, but no, he wrote a foreword, and I also talk about meeting him in my book, and our stories are pretty much the same. He was out on spring break from school in Massachusetts, I think to see a girlfriend or a job interview or something. And I saw him training in the gym, and he had what I call a telegenic look. And I approached him in the parking lot, and I said, have you ever thought about professional wrestling? And he said it would be his dream. And then, but he said, there's no way I could ever pursue that. And I said, well, you know, I probably make that happen. And he came back out after graduating. He stayed at one of my homes for about 5 months. He stayed at several of my homes. And 18 months later, after I first met him, he had a contract with the WWE. I mean, I opened the door. I mean, he did the work. I mean, I can only do so much, but apparently it was enough to help him, you know, pursue that career. And I'm very proud of the life he's had.
Yeah. And you've done that for a lot of wrestlers, because someone I just actually met a couple of months ago was Sting, Steve Borden, and I'm interviewing his son, Jim Hellwig, who was the Ultimate Warrior, and Sting.
Yeah.
You both know them, and you helped kind of get them on the push, correct?
Well, yes, and that's the amazing thing, is that I don't think John Cena would have been a wrestling fan if it weren't for the Ultimate Warrior. So his three heroes working out, John just turned 48, were Lee Priest, Jay Cutler, and the Ultimate Warrior. Well, all three have been house guests of mine. So this is kind of the domino effect, that maybe you know, you help somebody and they in turn help, you know, maybe millions more. I'm in Europe now. I can't go anywhere when I show somebody my flyer who doesn't know John Cena.
Of course.
And they all do the face thing, and you can't see me. It's kind of, I sent John some of the videos of some of the waiters or people I've met, you know, doing his gimmick. But yeah, so it's just a, you know, I mean, I'm a big believer in fate and then what you do with it. And you know, what are the odds that John would have been inspired by those three people who I knew so well and helped?
Yeah. And I know a lot of pro wrestlers, and they've told me that they've wrestled Sting, Jim Hellwig, Ultimate Warrior. And Ultimate Warrior was not a great worker.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I don't know if you know that. He wasn't really
he hurt people.
Yes. Yes.
He was not a great wrestler, but I mean, just like with John Cena, I mean, John is certainly a better wrestler, but I mean, John and the Warrior knew how to work the crowd.
Correct.
And they had, see, I don't think, and this is why I first started, you know, Vince McMahon tried to buy Gold's Gym when we, you know, after Pete and Tim and I bought it. And
really?
he thought he was giving the gym a lot of publicity, free publicity, and he wanted a part of it. You know, he's brilliant at what he does, but he passed on buying it. But I said, you know, you need to have better talent. You know, people don't want to see ordinary. They don't want to see somebody that looks like somebody they saw walking down the street. They want to see someone like an Ultimate Warrior, you know, Jim Hellwig. I mean, he was 6'3", 275, and he was intense. I mean, people say, what was Jim like? And I said, well, you know, what you see is on the screen is pretty much what he's like in real life.
Who was more personal, Sting or you know, Steve or Jim? Sting or
well, Steve is definitely more personal.
Okay. Wow. And you've had the Steiner brothers, correct? There, did you know the Steiner brothers?
Yeah, I knew them very well. They were on the road with Sting and Hellwig and the Ultimate Warrior. Yeah, and they were incredible bodybuilders, really. I mean, they didn't get enough credit, and they were major league wrestlers. They were Olympic alternates.
Yeah, Michigan State. I think Michigan State.
Yeah.
They were real wrestlers and talented wrestlers.
I even helped Big Papa Pump, I think, with some of his gimmick.
Oh, really? Scott Snyder.
Yeah.
Wow, Big Papa Pump. Wow.
Yeah.
He was pretty great. You know, a lot of people there. I was talking to Lee Priest, as he was trying. I texted him, and Lee said, you know, said a lot of great things about you, of course. And he said, you thought he was the freakiest bodybuilder of all time?
Yeah, I have to, you know, I've been asking these interviews who I think is the greatest bodybuilder. And I guess, well, I mean, to me, it's Lee Priest. Again, but even Lee wasn't exactly perfect. If he'd been 2 inches taller, I think, you know, he would be Mr. Olympia for years. But the proportions were just a little bit off because of his height. And, but, you know, I met him, you know, he turned 21 in my home. So knowing what he looked like at that time and knowing what he was doing, you know, chemically, I mean, he was a freak. He was incredible. And, yeah, I really can't, and when people ask me about the greatest body, I often think, I wish they'd ask me about greatest body parts, because I don't think any one bodybuilder has it all.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know, you could say, well, who had, like, you know, Paul DeMeo maybe had the best calves besides having incredible triceps. Or, you know, they called him Quadzilla because of his thighs, but I mean, you could have added those two body parts as well. So no, but yeah, Lee, in terms of just an amazing total package at his age, and look at him now he's 53, I think. He looks great now. I mean, show me another bodybuilder that age that looks that good.
Yeah, we were with him about a couple months ago. I was with him. He was here in Jersey, and he still looks great. He still looks great.
Yeah,
absolutely. Jay Cutler was another one. What, isn't he staying at your house too?
Yeah, Jay, I did a podcast with him, and
yes,
he credits me and Joe Weider for basically making his decision to pursue bodybuilding and not law enforcement. People don't understand that back then there were a lot of Gold's gyms which were popping up all over the country were putting on contests. They called them Gold's Classic, and these people would come out to LA for publicity. And Jay was one of them. And I went into the gym to introduce myself, and I just happened to ask where he was staying. And he mentioned this motel on Pico, or Lincoln, one of those two streets that I knew was kind of questionable, not dangerous. And I said, well, you know, you got to get out of there. So I invited him and his girlfriend Carrie to stay at my home on the beach. And then apparently I invited him back again later in the year, and he came, and that's when he made his decision to stay and pursue bodybuilding.
Yeah. You know, for me, I'm in my 50s, and I always remember the magazines, and obviously, you know, Joe Weider and Ben Weider. What was your relationship with the Weiders? I mean, Joe always was, I think, more approachable, I think. I don't know, Ben.
Yeah, Joe, I had no relationship with Ben Weider, but when he was in Montreal. But Joe and I was really very close to him. A few months after meeting or buying the gym, I met with him because we were having some issues over our ads in the magazines. And knowing that I was an architect, he asked me to help him with some projects. So that was kind of the quid pro quo. If I would help him, he would help us, you know, Gold's Gym. So, and especially at the end of his life, I saw him quite often with Betty and Arnold. So, no, he was, his passion was inspiring. When I met him, he was, I think, 60 years old, and he was still going, you know, at it. And I mention him in the book, and I credit him, Arnold, and Gold's Gym for transforming the culture regarding fitness.
You know, one of my favorites was Mike Menser. Did you know Mike? He was one of my favorites. He was a little bit strange at times, but I mean,
he was. I think that strangeness was sort of his intellectualism.
Maybe, yeah, because
he also might have been. You know, again, he was smoking some bad stuff, and I think that's what ultimately killed him. He got something laced with LSD.
Wow. Yeah, but he was smart. He knew, a lot of things. He was very smart. But sometimes he got a little bit strange.
Right.
Victor Richards, is it true
Yeah.
that you threw him out of the gym?
I didn't throw him out of the gym. Three of my managers or partners, basically suspended his membership,
Okay.
which is pretty amazing. But John Lloyd, who was Boston Lloyd's father,
Boston White Father, yes.
was probably my first hire back in 1980. He
Mm,
worked my gym in San Francisco, and eventually he became partners with me in a Gold's Gym in Reseda and then Northridge,
mm.
where it moved. And you could probably get him on your show, but I believe Victor Richards had an argument with somebody in the gym, and he went out and got a gun, and somehow it went off in the gym and landed in the cash register. So obviously John suspended him, and,
Yeah.
and my manager in Venice independently suspended him, and then my partner Jack and Leslie Wadsworth in the Gold Gyms I owned in Seattle with them, they also suspended him. So, what are the odds that three different managers would suspend somebody from the gym, the same person? So
Yeah.
that just shows that he was basically, a wild
Yeah.
card. You've got to understand in the gym, if Craig, if somebody got in a fight and hurt someone, you'd have no, the first time offense, you'd have no prior knowledge.
Hmm.
But with Victor Richards, if he hurt somebody, knowing what we knew, we would be liable because we allowed him in the gym. So he doesn't understand that you can't do that. You have to let people go because of their behavior.
Hmm. Gold's Gym was like the epicenter. Everyone wanted to be there. That's where everyone became stars. What do you think made it such a unique environment?
I've been asked that question a lot, and I try to address a little bit of it in my book. And actually, Rick Valenti has a new book out. I encourage you maybe to get him on your show.
Okay.
And the book was a great read. And he did a better job than me of just describing the atmosphere in the gym. But I think a lot of it was the music. Back then there were no headsets, no Spotify. That all changed. Beginning with the Walkman.
Yep.
People now are in their own little world in the gym, whereas back then you had that shared energy.
100%. You're known for discovering talent. What qualities do you look for when you're looking at a young athlete?
Well, first off, I'm looking for somebody who's young.
Okay, that's a good point.
I think the internet. I thought the internet would really help, this whole fitness world, but I don't think it has. But I think when I read on the internet, it's like you have to pay your dues and be in your 30s.
Yep.
And I rarely encouraged anybody over 30 because that's when you begin getting hurt. And my philosophy about life is 20 through 30 is when you experiment. You don't really get serious about what you're going to do until you're 30. I was unemployed and broke at 30 when I took the job in California to work as an architect. So that was kind of the beginning of my life. So if somebody contacts me is in his 30s, I usually just say I can't support that pursuit. But so first off, you got to be young, and I think again genetics maybe only be 5% of making the makeup of a great bodybuilder, but without that, it's hopeless. So I look for big hands, big feet, big neck.
Wow. Okay.
It's amazing how many people I meet who don't understand that their shoe size is about 3 sizes bigger than it should be. And these are typically American bodybuilders whose growth was stunted, having to make weight for wrestling. And that's something I'm very passionate about. And I have a chapter in my book about my crusade to get the NCAA to lower allow wrestlers to have a weight range rather than go out and make weight and kill themselves.
Yeah.
That
People
was a
died
whole.
from that. People died.
Yeah, people were dying the year that the TV show 2020 contacted me wanting to do an expose on creatine. And I said, well, no, creatine has actually saved lives because it's allowed these athletes to have more water in them and they lived. But that's when the guys were putting on the rubber suits and running around and going inside and basically, I think there were 3 wrestling deaths that one year.
Wow. Well, what do you feel about steroids? How do you feel about steroids?
Well, I make the statement in my book that I can't honestly say I know anyone who was killed by taking steroids. I'm not advocating their use, but for many they're the fountain of youth, and if you use them reasonably well. I mean, this is the crazy thing about our society. During the first 8 or 9 years that Pete and Tim and I owned Gold's Gym, steroids were legal. Then they became illegal, and now it's like if you have money, they're legal again.
Correct.
All these clinics are popping up, offering growth hormone and PED treatments, and they work. I mean, they work. I mean, this is the problem with big pharma. Is when you open a box or whatever of a steroid, it says, warning, this does not enhance athletic ability. Well, bullshit. If adding 10 to 30 pounds in months doesn't enhance your athletic ability, I don't know what does. So again, if they're going to scare people, they've got to really scare it with real facts. I mean, the only thing I do know, it causes, I think, early hair loss in some, but it certainly, I don't know anybody who's made sterile or impotent, and it says that on the label, on the warning. It may make you, but I don't know anyone for whom that's true.
Yeah.
So again, guys were using it as a contraceptive, really, because they thought they could take, if they were taking steroids, they couldn't get their girlfriend pregnant. Well, lo and behold, it didn't work that way. Yeah. So that's another big lie that our society, they put out there. So I believe that, proper use, it's a fountain of youth.
Yeah. And like I said, I think a lot of these bodybuilders that I know that passed away, and I don't want to take Rich Piana as one, but he was involved with other things that I know. He was steroid, but he was had those demons that he was,
Well, Rich was one of my best friends. I mean, I was very close to him, and his death in Dallas McCarver's the same year was devastating. But yeah, every time I go down the rabbit hole looking for why someone died, there's always something else that's more likely to kill her.
Yeah, I mean, Rich was a nice guy.
Unfortunately, a lot of recreational drugs.
That's right. With painkillers, people get hurt.
Yeah,
painkillers start.
Yeah,
painkiller.
Well, painkiller is a real serious problem now because of things are being laced with drugs that kill you quickly.
Yeah. And how was Rich? I didn't know him personally, but I've seen him. How was he? He was a nice guy, though, from what I heard.
I thought he was a wonderful guy. Yeah, amazing talent, and just he was. I mean, how many other bodybuilders had so many fans actually, get ink or tattoos to commemorate him? I mean, I must know 24.
Yeah.
I mean, no one else had that fan base. But I would see him at these trade shows in Europe and the U.S. and I don't know when he peed. I mean, he never left the booth. He knew how to work a booth and be good. And he's kind of like Arnold in the way that he would encourage his fans that were into fitness.
Yeah, I mean, he never really won a major show, but he had the biggest line. He never won Olympia, but he had the biggest line every time.
He kind of got screwed. I mean, I was with him actually. One of his last contests in 2009, and he won his weight class super heavy, but he lost the overall to a middleweight. When you look at the lineup of the 5 or 6 weight classes, I mean, it's ridiculous that he didn't get he just said, screw it, I'm done. And I think he would have been a better pro than most of the people that have come on or beat him since, because he had a personality. That's my big problem with the guys nowadays. There's not a lot of personality.
Yeah. It's hard for me to watch today's bodybuilding. I mean, how would you compare the bodybuilders of the 70s, 80s, and even early 90s to the athletes today?
Well, I think they're definitely, they're more likable in the public's eye. They're more, classic bodybuilding is sort of, I hope where it's going, because most of these guys that are in the open bodybuilding are just, there's no athleticism, there's no grace or beauty. I mean, they're freaks. It's amazing what they've done, but it's just not, it's not pretty.
Yeah, it's definitely not. Now, Gold's Gym, you guys had the first women's bodybuilding event. Is that correct?
Right. The first year that Pete, Tim, and I owned it, we had the first women's bodybuilding event ever. Lisa Lyons, who died a few years ago, was the winner there and a real pioneer in women's bodybuilding. A really bright young woman.
Is that how you started getting more people there, like to join? Like, I know the Golds had contests that other gyms never had. Is that how you started developing your brand?
Well, we were really a pioneer in co-ed gyms.
Yeah.
Again, back in the day, people don't know this, or they're too young to know, but it was typically Monday, Wednesday, Friday was men, Tuesday, Thursday, women, Saturday was co-ed, and the gyms were closed on Sunday.
Oh,
So
wow,
we pioneered, we made our gym owners open 7 days a week.
Oh, wow.
and be co-ed, which that actually got us into a lot of problems in the South.
I'm sure.
I think people thought women were going to get attacked in the gym, but I don't know of any case that was true. I don't think I've never in all these years with the 1,000 Gold's gyms that were popped up over time. I don't know of one incident like that.
Wow. That's crazy. What do you think of the current model, like of today's gyms with like Planet Fitness, and it's all, $10 a month, whatever it is? How do you think of that model?
Well, that's I spend a lot of time in my book writing about that, because that's why I think it's an important read, because for the first when Pete, Tim, and I bought Gold's Gym, it was 4,500 square feet in Santa Monica. We moved it back to Venice in 1981 to 9,100 square feet. So we doubled the size of it. And
Wow.
then over the next 9 years, we expanded it to 26,000 square feet. And that became the one size fits all gym model for about 2 decades. And then around the turn of the century, the fitness world sort of split into at least 5 categories. You had Planet Fitness on the low end, and then you had the Equinox or Lifetime on the high end in terms of membership rates. And I think that makes sense. If I were an owner of Gold's Gym right now, I would encourage them to have 3 categories of gyms, because it's not one size fits all anymore.
No.
So it makes sense to if you're going to have competition in the market, it's good to own it all. So that's back then we could not have done that, but I think now it makes a great deal of sense.
When did you leave Gold's or sell it off or whatever you did?
2004.
2004. Why'd you make that decision?
Well, we were losing in 1994. A lot of Gold's gyms were being bought up by Town Sports International on the East Coast and 24-hour Fitness on the West Coast. I always wanted to be the largest gym chain in the world, so I thought we need to get help, that a financial partner that would buy up the gyms that want to sell or exit and retire. So this is many of our owners had been gym owners for 10, 15 years and wanted to get out of the business. So it took me 4.5 years to find a private equity company that would buy us and become a partner, essentially. And during that time, we grew from 535 gyms when we sold in 99 to 704 in 2004 when I left.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. Like I said, Paramus Gold's Gym here, obviously the pandemic, that really hurt it, and we had to close it down because of the pandemic. What did you think about
Mike Epstein? Is that
Yes, Mike Epstein, correct. Mike, yes. Yeah, Mike.
He told me his whole story. Yeah, great guy, great operator.
Yeah, it was great. We loved the thing. We loved the gym and everything, but unfortunately the pandemic. What did you think about the pandemic, about them closing these gyms?
I'm very angry about it. I still am.
Really?
Nobody got it right except Sweden. And, Trump was president, back then when it hit. If he's such a great businessman, he should have said, this is just bullshit. Let's stay open. And he totally mishandled it. I mean, gym owners have lost a great deal of money. I mean, and at restaurant, I mean, even I'm here in Italy, and they haven't come out of it fully yet. God knows what it did to the kids in terms of their education. It was, 7 million people died worldwide out of a population of 8 billion. That's a thousandth of 1%, or not even more. It's thousandths of 1%. I mean, that's absurd to shut down the whole world for what basically was the flu.
Yeah.
I mean, the president should have said, this is time for everybody to join a gym, eat better, and lose some weight. I think we're going to find, most of the people who died were, over 60 and overweight and had pre-existing conditions. I only know one person who died, Bob Gruskin. Maybe some of your listeners know him. He was, I think, 86, but he was a smoker and he was overweight. And actually, Governor Cuomo, transferred people like him from the hospital to nursing homes where he caught it. But I mean, I wore a mask. I tried to, distance and wash, all that stuff, but I didn't let it change my life. I was traveling a great deal. No, I really was. It's disgusting. It's I hope to God we never go down that road again. And it's nature's cleaning house, and we let it ruin our lives, lives of many. That's one reason I'm not back in LA. Everything I loved is gone.
Everything. It's crazy. Your book, The Three Musketeers, Muscleteers, it's available on Amazon, correct?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's only, but 75% of the books sold in America right now are through Amazon.
Through Amazon.
But it's also the audio is also available on Amazon, and I narrate it.
How long did it take
all
you to
of that
write that?
history is in there.
How long did it take you to write that?
It was a solid year of 8-hour days.
Oh, wow. Long time. Yeah. Now, if someone wanted to open a gym today, what advice would you give them?
I would say, first off, you've really got to be careful with your landlord, or who you're going to go and partner with.
Okay.
So I would have that person ask the landlord for 3 or 4 tenants that he has, that they can call and talk to them about what kind of landlord he was. Was he an asshole or was he easy to work with? So, unfortunately, we would get Gold's Gym owners who had in the back of their mind, I'm going to be open come hell or high water in 3 months. They get into a bad lease and then they get in trouble. So that's the most precious time you have, is to, really do your research. So that would, and actually before the pandemic, I would not have advised anyone to get into the gym business because it's just too cluttered a market. But now, because of the pandemic, 30% of the gyms in America closed. It's kind of back to the future. Now smaller gyms under 10,000 square feet make sense. The big gyms are the ones in trouble because they have all this real estate, but they don't have the same number of members that they had before the pandemic. So it's actually a great time, and there's a lot of used equipment out. There's a lot of old great equipment that, you don't need to buy all new. That's available, and there's so many things that make the gym business easier now. Like you can have a gym that's open 24 hours now. I would never have done that when I owned gyms because of the liability. But now with the cameras and all the electronic available, you can actually have a 24-hour gym and feel quite comfortable with what you're doing.
Yeah, the technology also, is so advanced, but we have to change, I think, with some of these new equipment. I think maybe have, like you said, cameras on the machines because people always have their camera in their face in the gym, which is crazy. I think they need to maybe these machines have videos on them already, and all kinds of things. Maybe
I don't have a solution for that. I mean, one thing that has changed, at least doing the cardio, is that you can just put your phone on the device, and so that's kind of eliminated the need for a TV and all of that headache.
What was the biggest life lesson the gym industry taught you?
Well, that's a really good question. I haven't been asked that. I guess it gets back to all the biographies I've read and what I've seen in my own life, life is half about fate or luck and half what you do with it.
Mm,
So I could see that in the gyms with people.
yeah.
That lesson that the harder you work, the luckier you get. So
Hmm.
just working hard and trying to get lucky or make that thing happen, and then execute.
Mm. What advice, especially with social media today,
Uh,
what advice would you give young bodybuilders who want to try making it in the industry?
I would tell most of my house guests that I said, give it 3 years, and if you haven't, reached your goal in that time, then move on. So
Really?
don't. It's kind of sad the people I see who are, going after God knows how many years, and they've got a wife and kid, and they become almost the baby in the family. Everybody
Mm,
kind of walking around in eggshells because, the husband, the father is dieting. I don't
mm,
think that's fair. In other words, it's just, I guess unless you're making a living as a personal trainer and you need that credential and whatever, and it's good to have goals like that, it makes sense. But I really, I like the 3-year rule.
that's pretty good.
Which also
Oh,
applies to gyms, by the way. If you're not making money after 3 years opening your gym, then it's probably time to find another solution.
mm. When you were running the gyms, what was like a typical day for you? What would you do during the day?
Well, there was no typical day.
Oh,
That's what I loved about it.
okay. Everything was different,
When you're working as an architect, you probably have 2, 3, 4 projects
Mhm,
underway in different stages. One might be in construction, one might be in design, one might be conceptualized development. So it's but when I go in the Gold Gym office every morning, 7:30, I had a list of 10 things to do,
mm,
but I might get through all 10 items, or I might not get beyond the first. Like the day that Lee Priest walked in the door, Irv Galba, one of the
mm,
bodybuilder photographers back then, he saw Lee. The photographers would kind of roam the gym looking for talent because
mhm.
the magazines didn't really have a lot of staff photographers. You had to make your own living
Okay.
as a photographer, and basically it was discovering talent. And the talent was in Gold's Gym. Irv saw Lee, brought him over to my office, and 2 days later, I think we're having lunch with Joe Weider,
Mm,
trying to get Lee a contract. So it's again that fate. That was just Herb happened to see him in the gym. Jim Mannion happened to be in town that weekend
mm,
or that week, and I told Jim. I remember I said, this guy's 2-time Mr. Australia, and he's not even a pro. We need to call whoever in Australia and get him a pro card. Then he got that, and then went on to compete in the Ironman
mhm,
a month later, and he placed. He won some money. So yeah, again, that fork in the road, that twist of fate. It's an amazing thing to see happen. But
mhm.
again, if we hadn't communicated, I think nowadays I see so many young people. They're on their phones. They don't communicate. If when I reached out to Pete Grimkowski in Orlando at Orange Avenue Gym,
Mhm.
if I had never done that, excuse me, and he
Okay.
had never responded, we wouldn't be here today. So
Wow.
it's and it's true with so many people in my life. Nowadays, I'll reach out to some. I mean, there's probably 3 of the 4 people I approach about pro wrestling, blow me off. Like, who is this guy?
Mm,
And it's harder than ever to get to young people because they're just so in their own little world.
mm.
Um, so
Wow.
yeah, put down your phones and engage.
Yeah. Do you think the Barbarian Brothers could have been great wrestlers?
I tried to get them to go
Oh,
that
did you
route.
try? Okay.
Yeah.
You
Oh
tried?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were the incredible physiques. They didn't like dieting. I think that was their big problem to competing. But they
Mhm.
were real characters. And
Yeah, they
they
were.
both I think at some point they both had homes in Malibu. So they made a living just being the Barbarian Brothers.
Yeah, they were.
I think I have a cute little segment in my book when they interviewed with one of the columnists from the LA Times. But yeah, they were the real thing. They were like Jim Hellwig. They were They were true life characters.
They were nuts a little bit.
David Paul was a very talented photographer.
Oh,
I,
was he?
I, I love his work. He did some great. I have some huge blow-ups of the ones he did of Lee Priest. You should try and find those and show
No, I
those.
gotta check that out. Yeah, I'll check that out. They were in the movie DC Cab. Also, they had a couple roles in movies.
Yeah, they had some movies where I mean that's why I don't like a lot of these superhero movies because it's just too much CGI. But the Barbarians look pretty damn incredible in those movies.
100%. During your time owning Gold's Gym, was there any business decision you regret and wish you can change?
Oh, there are many. Yeah.
Really?
We probably should never have licensed out our clothing. That was we were actually, it turns out we were doing a better job than the professionals who we licensed. I think it'd been great if we'd started a personal training clinic, head a company that basically warranted or supervised that whole world. Because right now, I think when I left Gold's Gym, there might have been 13 companies that we recognize as we recognize their personal training certificates, but nobody is overseeing them. So I think it would have been a natural for Gold's Gym to be the authority. We call ourselves. I think Gold's Gym's greatest tagline right now is the authority on fitness for 60 years. So, some of these personal training courses are a joke. And I think that would have been a great thing for Gold's Gym to have done. I also regret, we didn't do a good job with the supplements.
That's something you guys should have hit. The supplements, definitely.
I think I write in my book that the 20-some house guests of mine that got in the supplement business, if you took their yearly gross at the height of their companies, it would probably be over $1 billion.
Wow.
But I think it's the individual passion they had for products that made the difference. We didn't have that, but we kind of also were ahead of. At one point we were going to do gold water, and we had drinks, and I think again that nowadays, my God, it's all over. I think again we were kind of ahead of our time. Pete Krimkowski was selling, whey protein when he was trying to make a living when I met him initially. So he was also ahead of his time.
Yeah, 100%. You taking in house guests like you did in the 70s and 80s, that would never happen today. No one would be doing that today, I bet you.
I don't think even, the last 45 years, people were shocked. I'm amazed how many homes I go to, and I'm the first non-family house guest.
Yeah.
And you can tell when you go into the bathroom or bedroom, they've never had anyone in their home before. And I didn't grow up. My mother grew up poor, raised by both her mom and dad died young, and she was raised by an aunt, a librarian of all things. But they were on Sundays. They would invite all the 7 kids were allowed to bring their friends, or invite their friends to Sunday dinner. They didn't have much, but they shared it. And my mom was incredibly gracious my whole, young life regarding my friends and inviting them in for dinner or overnight. And, she would always say, there, but for the grace of God, go you or I. And frankly, I don't like being alone in a house, and I've never been married. And I like coming back, and I'd come back to my home, and there might be 2 or 3 people staying there, and I'd say, who's hungry? Let's go eat. And we might do dinner and a movie. And just, I still enjoy, that kind of camaraderie. And, this is before, imagine my dining table, I had a 5-foot round dining table in my last house in Venice. Lee Priest might be there talking to Jay Cutler, talking to Paul DeMeo. So here you have 3 guys who probably never had a training partner like was next to them right now, or that kind of vision for their life. So there was somebody now who's, like-minded, which is got to be a game changer. Well, yeah, I'm not crazy. This guy coming from Australia, he thinks he's going to be a pro bodybuilder, and it would give. I think it would make it all real to them, and it would become believable.
Wow, that's great. What was your most memorable like interaction with somebody at the gym that you could think of, maybe a star or somebody? Because I know there's a lot of celebrities out there.
I've had. I'm not. I'm not really in tune with a lot of the music or entertainment people. And I remember I walked into the gym one day, and I was with Derek Barton, who handled our public relations, and he goes, "Oh, there's 50 Cent." And I looked down at my feet, thinking there were a couple of quarters.
Wow.
But there was 50 Cent, training, whatever he goes by, out there on the gym floor. He had an amazing physique, but I didn't know him from the Man in the Moon.
Oh, that's funny. Now, are you currently opening up, trying to do something in the gym? Are you trying to open up a gym or doing something?
I'm working on a project right now in Las Vegas, but given the economy there, I'm not sure where it's going to go. The Trump economy it's so uncertain. I mean, as a business person, that's to me hard. I can't imagine now trying to buy a T-shirt with the tariffs being kind of on the table, and it's everything is 3 months. It's a 3-month tariff, and then it goes. Who knows? It's just that uncertainty. I can't see it being good for our economy.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy,
Well, the Canadian tourists are staying away in Vegas, and we're not going to make Canada the 51st state.
No. No. When are you coming back to the States? When are you coming back?
I don't have a return ticket.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Okay, you're staying out there in Italy for a while?
At least till Trump dies, yeah.
Okay, well, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So again, I just want to thank you for your time. Your book, The 3 Muscleteers, is available on Amazon. I'm going to bring that up there again. It's a great read. There's also audio book and everything. Ed, where can people reach you if they want to get you on social media?
I'm on Instagram as Jim Architect, GYM Architect. I don't know. I was lucky to get that. I don't know when the first Instagram came out. I just said, well, I'm the only gym owner architect you'll ever meet. So I took Jim Architect, and it's been great. Yeah,
great. Well, thank you so much for your time. And again, Lee Priest and everyone send their love. They said you're the best. They said you are the best. Everyone told me, said Ed is the best. We love Ed. So
I'd love to reconnect with Steve Borden and meet.
Yeah, it's his son. I'll actually send a message to him and let him know, and see if I can get you guys hooked up, because his son is starting into the wrestling now. Steve Jr. Yeah, he's getting into the wrestling business.
Is he tall?
He's pretty tall. He's pretty tall. He doesn't have the physique like his father. Like Steve Senior Sting had the bigger physique.
Yeah.
Not as big, but he's getting there. He's getting there.
Well, how old is he?
I think he's like 26.
Yeah,
he's in his 20s. So he's doing it. He went back for like a reunion for his father, and then it sort of clicked that he wanted to be in the business. Did you meet?
Steve was 21 when he was managing the gym in the Valley, which I think the youngest manager I ever had. He's a very mature, bright individual.
Yeah, he is. He's really smart and everything. Now, I know you said Vince McMahon wanted to buy Golds. What do you think about Vince McMahon? Was he always
he's actually my age, and
yes.
I mean, what he's done in the wrestling world is phenomenal. I just don't understand his issues, or what he did when the company was publicly traded. In other words, his behavior or how he handled it is one thing. It's your own company, but when you're part of a publicly traded company, you have a whole nother level of obligation. And I don't understand how he could somehow think writing a corporate check to pay off somebody was appropriate or would be allowed.
Yep.
And again, it's maybe a few millions, but I mean, his wife spent over $100 million running for 2 Senate offices.
Wow.
Linda.
Yeah.
So Linda McMahon. So what would that have been to him just to pay off the people that were coming after him and not using corporate checks. And that's my okay.
Yeah. If there was one person you could work out with for a day, out of all the people you knew when became the gold, who would it be? One person you'd like to have a training session with? Arnold?
Well, Jim Quinn and Mike Matarazzo were probably my two favorite house guests.
Yeah, Jim Quinn and Mike
Jim's been a personal trainer most of his life, so
yep.
They had, I think, a great sense of humor. It would
yeah. Yeah, Mike Matarazzo we lost young. He passed away hard.
Yeah.
That was a shame.
But again, he was married. People, blaming steroids. He was married 5 times. I mean,
yeah, that's right.
That will, that could kill you early.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
he was very Italian, very intense.
Mm-hmm.
A really fun guy, great guy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he and Jim Quinn were probably, because of their sense of humor.
Yeah.
So I would want a trainer that had a good sense of humor.
Yeah. Well, Ed, thank you so much for your time. Stay healthy. I'm going to reach out to Steve Borden. I'm going to hook it up with you. All right.
Yeah. Have a great holiday. Merry Christmas.
You too. Have Merry Christmas. Have a great holiday. Talk to you later, Ed. Thanks, buddy.
Bye.
Started from nothing. Jersey streets, we owned it. Jay-Z pumping iron. Bodybuilder coding. Years on the course.